GettingPositiveKarmaNow.com presents Bhagavad Gita for All, lectures by Nalan Narula, recorded in front of a live audience. Chapter 15, The Yoga of the Supreme Person.
Jai Gaur Hari Bol. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrind. Om Jnanam Timirandasya Jnananjanan Shalakya Chakshurunvinatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Last time we had completed text 16 of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Purushottam Yoga, Yoga of the Supreme Person, and the continuity was that in the 16th shlok, Dau imau purushau loke ksharas chakshara evacha shara sarvani bhutani kutastha akshara uchyate. So there are only two types of living entities that exist in the world, the fallible and the infallible, and all the living beings from Lord Brahma down to the lowest entity, moving, unmoving, are perishable due to having fallen away from their true nature and having come in contact with the material nature. Those who are situated in their eternally perfect nature in oneness of eternal association with the Supreme Lord are known as the infallible. So they are the Nitya Badh and the Nitya Mukt entities. The Nitya Badh are the ones who are in the material world. They are the temporary spiritual or the temporary imperishable, and the eternally imperishable ones are the Nitya Mukt in the spiritual world. The soul itself is imperishable, that's why it is referred to as the temporary imperishable, because they are in temporary bodies. We are all in temporary bodies. Our bodies are subject to change from moment to moment, from minute to minute. We are entering new bodies because the old cells are dying and the new ones are coming up, so the body is changing constantly. So this is temporary. In the spiritual world there is no such thing. It is eternal, and those who are in the spiritual world never come down here. So it is to be understood that while the entities in this world are not exactly fallen from the spiritual world, they have not been there, because if they were there they wouldn't come back here. But they are in touch with Krishna. They have been in touch with Krishna before they appeared here, and they chose to come to the material world to enjoy as controllers and enjoyers. So Krishna gave the facility. So now we have text 17 of chapter 15. Uttama purushastu anya paramatmeti udharata yo lokatrayam avishye bibharti avyaya ishvara. And the 18th text is Yasmat ksharam atito aham aksharad api chottama ato asmi loke vedecha prathitah purushottama. So this is text 17 and 18. This is a most crucial understanding. 17, going back to 17, it is Uttama Purusha tu Anya. The supreme, highest, best, Uttama, Purusha, person, personality, tu, but, Anya, another, Param Atma, the supreme soul, Iti, thus, so, Udharata, it is described, Ya Lokatrayam, who in the three divisions of the universe or the world, Avishya enters, Bibharti maintains and sustains, Avyaya Ishvara, the eternal Ishvara Lord. The translation of the 17th text is, other than these two types of living beings, the fallible and the infallible, the temporary imperishable and the permanently imperishable, there is another who is described as the Supreme Soul, the Param Atma, the imperishable transcendental Lord who has himself entered into three worlds in his eternal form and is maintaining and sustaining all living entities. Now, Ya Lokatrayam, the three divisions or the categories of the world, of the universe. So what are these three categories? So this refers to the Achetana category. Achetana means the elemental unconscious. Consciousness is not manifest. Unmanifested consciousness word. So where is this Achetana? This is the elements. And these are in the Mahat Tattva when there is no creation or there is waiting for creation. This is the inanimate. And Krishna says that my inferior nature consists of these 8 elements, which are not only the 5 material elements, but also the mind, intelligence and false ego, man, buddhi and ahankar. So these are considered to be also inanimate. So the combination, that is the first, the 3 types of the inanimate achetana elemental world. And then there is the combination of the inanimate and animate world, which is our bodies, these 8 elements in the bodies, and then there is consciousness. So Buddha Chetana, intelligence and consciousness. So consciousness is higher than mind, is higher than intelligence. It is the source of all these, or it derives, it is very, very high in the hierarchy of quality. So this is consciousness and awareness. And then there is the third world, which is the para, which is the transcendental world, the unlimited spiritual world. So the first 2 categories, the achetana and the chetana buddha, jivas, are there in bondage to the material world. And the third is the para world, the transcendental spiritual world, and those entities are eternally liberated and situated in their proper soul consciousness. So the elemental world also has souls and the super soul in it. The super soul is everywhere. It is said that he enters avishya. The word is avishya. Lokatrayam avishya. He enters into the elemental world. So in order to be super to anything, there has to be something inferior. So that is the living entity. So even in the elements, there are living entities, but they are not manifest. In stones, there are living entities. They are not manifest. So this is the inanimate achetana aspect of the 3 categories of the universe. And the Param Atma is different from the temporary as well as the permanent souls. It is superior to the individual immortal soul and sustains and maintains all the living entities and the worlds they live in. He provides for them. So the temporary imperishable are those who are captured by illusion, and the individual immortals are those who are the liberated ones. And all of these are maintained as one undivided reality. But each has their own individuality. So this is a very complex understanding. In one sense, it is that all the souls together and super soul together are the Supreme Lord, but they are not the same. They are part of His reality. But some have the option, and they have taken the option to be separate, and they can never become Paramatma. They can never become the Supreme. So it is an illusion to think that if we are part and parcel of the Divine, we can become the Divine. So that is never happening. In chapter 2 is very clearly mentioned that everybody is individual and always has been, and the illusion souls have forgotten their individuality and who they were, but Krishna says, I have never forget anything. I am always aware. So I know everything. You have changed many bodies, all these kings, all these people here, the warriors, and you also, Arjun, have changed many bodies, but I have not. I am always the same. So he is superior. So that's why he is the supreme soul. So it is mentioned that the definition is Uttama Purusha or Purushottama, the highest, supreme, best, superior to all entities, also known as the Param Atma. So it is clarified here that the Supreme Soul is simultaneously an individual, and then he expands as the Paramatma on top of all the Atmas that exist. So he is always maintaining a superior position of that kind, that he is above and he is not affected by what is happening to the Atma in the sense of their bodies and so on. So the origin of the spiritual world, it expands from Karanadakshay Vishnu, who enters from his body, comes out moisture to create the causal ocean, and he lies there on Anantashesh, and then he is in meditation, an internal meditation, and he is thinking about what is happening in the universe. Once it was asked, what is he thinking about, what is he meditating on? So the answer given was that he is meditating on the events of the Mahabharata, and specifically he is meditating on the Bhagavad Gita. So this is a very prime scripture that one should consider and use as a guidebook for everything that one has to do, and it is applicable to all regardless of where they are and who they are. So after the Karanadakshay Vishnu, there is the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, because as Karanadakshay Vishnu is breathing, from his pores emanate all the universes, and in those universes there is this whole sequence of the Garbhodakshay Vishnu entering as the soul of those universes, and then in his form as Kshirodakshay Vishnu, he enters as the super soul, as the Paramatma. So this sequencing has been given in the Vedas, it's given in the Bhagavatam, and this is the expansion of this understanding. So he has entered into these three types of worlds, the three categories: the inanimate world, the animate and inanimate combination world, and the spiritual world, which is completely transcendental to material nature. So it is clear that the Paramatma aspect as well as the Super Soul aspect of the Supreme Person, Krishna, is distinct from the individual souls. There is a reference in, if you go back to Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, the 31st shlok, it says, Yada bhuta prithak bhavam ekastham anupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities because of the different material bodies, and he sees that how the beings have expanded throughout the universe everywhere, he attains to the Brahma conception. So that Brahma energy, in other words, the universal life force energy, the Reiki energy, is in every living entity, and that is an aspect of the Paramatma. So this is very, very important understanding. And then if we go on to the 18th text, Yasmat ksharam atito aham aksharadapi cha uttama ato asmi loke vede cha pratitha purushottama. So Yasmat ksharam atita aham, because I am transcendental to the perishable beings, and at the same time apicha uttama ata, I am also superior to my infallible eternal associates who never fall down from their position. And because of this, my glories are sung throughout the universe and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person, Purushottama. Ata, therefore, asmi loke vede, in the Vedic literature, cha pratita, celebrated Purushottama as the Supreme Personality. The Chanda Yoga Upanishad 8.12.3 says, Tavad esa samprasado asmak charirat samuthaya param jyoti rupam sampadya svena rupena bhinna spadyate sa uttama purusha. So the super soul comes out from the body, enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, and then in his form remains in his spiritual identity. And the Supreme is called the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Supreme God. So it is also mentioned in the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2 and the Shvetashvatra Upanishad 4.7. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno anishaya shochati muyatamana jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vit shoka. So this is like two birds sitting in the tree, the soul and super soul. They are sitting in the tree of material body, which is this body, and there are two different types of entities. There is one who is trying to enjoy the material body and the material nature, that is the finite soul, and he is very anxious and he is very morose and sad as he tries to enjoy the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or the other he turns his face to his friend, who is the eternal Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. So this is the method to approach the divine and to have this understanding. This is a very key understanding of who the divine is, who we are, who are the other living entities, what makes up the material universe, and how we are to conduct ourselves to get to the point of being free from illusion, delusion, and go back to the spiritual home. Text 17 of chapter 15. Other than these two types of living beings, there is another who is described as the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, the imperishable transcendental Lord who has himself entered the three worlds in his eternal form and is maintaining all living beings. And 15.18 is, because I am Yasmat Ksharam Atita Aham. It is now the personal form. I am transcendental to the perishable beings and also superior to those infallible eternal associates who are the permanent imperishable, who are never falling down from their position. My glories are sung throughout the universe and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person, Purushottama. So this is the conclusive understanding that we get from this. So we will pause here at 15:18, and if there are any questions, we will take some questions now. All these people taking notes, do you have questions? There are only two people taking notes. The rest of you are...
Sir, can you explain us once how do we have to conduct?
That is there. I was already said that Krishna says that you always think of me, see me in all the living entities, do not see them as separate from me, and be aware of me, bow down to me, Mam Namaskuru. Also that you should chant the Mahamantra, remember him in any way and form that you can, and you do your healing. So these are the methodologies for us on a practical basis. So all that we do, we are doing, remembering that Krishna is present everywhere, the universal life force energy, Reiki, Brahma energy is present everywhere, and we are working to satisfy Krishna. So what is his greatest satisfaction? That we go back home to him, that we are freeing ourselves, we are turning our faces away from the material and turning towards the spiritual. So that turning is very important. So when you engage in the healing process, the turning process has already begun. You need to maintain it, and that can be done when you have knowledge. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the question asked was, what is it that by knowing which one knows everything? So the answer given was that by knowing the two types of knowledge, the material knowledge or the technical knowledge, and then the spiritual, which is beyond the technical. It has no technical references, it has no ritualistic references. It is knowledge of the Supreme Absolute, it is knowledge of the transcendental, it is knowledge of the spiritual. So one is acquired knowledge and the other is realized knowledge. Krishna has mentioned this earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, a number of places, that there is acquired knowledge and then there is realized knowledge. So the pursuit of knowledge has to encompass both these. So you must understand, because if you do not do that, then you are easily getting swayed. And the next session that we have is the completion, where he tells you exactly this, how exactly you are to manage your progress to the spiritual. So that will be covered in the next class. In the last two texts of this chapter 15, 19 and 20, there are only two more texts left, but we will discuss those in detail also next time. So any questions relating to these shlokas?
Shloka is asking.
Okay.
Sir, one can go to a spiritual world after death only with association to a spiritual master. Does the student also get the opportunity to associate with the master in the spiritual world?
Yes, of course. And even if the spiritual master is no more there in the bodily form, the energy form still exists and is still connected to all the students and so on. So it is not a loss. It is a transformation of the body. It is a movement away from the material into the spiritual. So that is there. However, those who are not very advanced, they need a spiritual master present in the bodily form to guide them. So the words of the spiritual master are his body also. So there is, the spiritual master expands into Vani and Vapu. Vapu means body and Vani means his teachings. So if you are connecting with the teachings and you are guided properly to understand the teachings the way they were given and not to twist out some unholy reason or some weird understanding of that, then you're okay. So the basic principle is that as the texts are, or the teaching is, you should take it as it is, and then you may expand the meaning, but you don't have to have imaginative or creative understanding of that. It must be backed up by Shastra, it must be backed up by cross-referencing, it must be backed up by other teachers. So it is important to seek that. So within the community of healers, there will be those who have studied and have understood and who have become mature in their understanding, so they can also be consulted. So that is perfectly fine. So in case of doubt, they should be consulted, and you have to understand who are these higher beings or the beings with the higher knowledge within the community, and not that everybody is flying on their own in this sense. They must be connected and take guidance from whomsoever is qualified and available, other than oneself. So one may be qualified, but there are others who are going to be more qualified. So one should consult them. In the absence of the spiritual master, you follow the teachings, basically. And the teachings given are not very difficult to understand, really. But if somebody has difficulty, then he can consult another. So study is required. So you must study. If you want to become come to the platform of a Shiksha Guru, even one who gives guidance, then you must study. Without study, it is not possible. Without education, it is not possible. So only when you are ready with this are you ready for the next phase.
Also, in the spiritual, when you look at the material progress of your desire, is...
In the spiritual, you look at material progress? What is it?
No, when you are in this material, as you look in the material at your progress of the desire that you have, then you so decide whether you are progressed or not. Sometimes...
I have not understood the statement you are making.
When I'm looking at, I want to go back.
Okay.
How do I know if I'm progressing correctly?
Well,
Is there an emotion?
if you want to go back, it's fine that you want to go back. And the understanding is that we had covered in the last couple of classes that the definition would be a person who is not willing to give up the association of Krishna. So if someone is not willing to give up the association of Krishna no matter what, that person is in the right place. So that is the progress. Not that tomorrow I'm running to the demigods, day after tomorrow I'm going here and there.
And it should be judged by an emotion.
Well, you may get emotion, you may get spiritual emotion, you may get
There
other
is a
kind.
spiritual emotion.
Yeah. When you're black,
Blissfulness we'll talk
yeah,
about.
blissfulness, your heart chakra expands, you are connected more. So all those things happen. So emotions are there. But at the same time there is a fundamental steadiness. There is a balance which doesn't get shaken too much. If it does, it's unwavering, but it comes back to center. Krishna has much earlier in his talk to Arjun said that when a person is situated like a lamp in a non-flickering place, and he's not changing his direction or he's not flickering regardless of the winds and storms of changeable fortune, basically, such a person is considered to be steady. So those things will happen to you and test your steadiness. How steady are you? So you should say, please don't test me.
Is there any, am I in a spiritual mood when I was reading somewhere about bliss and this nectar. Now the desire has come that I also want to experience it. So is that
You will
wrong?
experience it when you do your healing. And if you are focusing on the flow of the energy, you are immediately connected to nectar and bliss. So if you are not doing that, do it and see. You used to do it in the beginning. What happened? Everyone comes to the beginning and they feel this nectar and bliss and they get very excited. Then it becomes, okay, it's there. Now let me think about it.
That's what I said, because it's always there and I'm listening to the thing.
No, so you want more excitement basically. So that is, it may
You
happen.
talk so strongly about it, and I was thinking, because I wasn't getting it maybe, so I was like, I was thankful, as you said, that other healers around you are very important. They remind you of, she said, go and listen to what Master said. So she gave me that particular lesson to hear, and I immediately realized I was throwing a tantrum, even in
Yes.
the spiritual side.
Yes, so you will fluctuate between these zones. So you must always reconnect with the teachings. So that is very important. Any other questions?
Shipra Singh, grateful sir, and even after student dies and goes to spiritual world, does the student get the association of Master even there?
Of course. You get association with Krishna, you get association with Vishnu, depending where you go. And you get association with many masters. So they're all going there. They're coming from a different place. Some are descending like Jay and Vijay, for example, but it is explained that they were actually on the border of the spiritual world. But then we have Krishna's own personal associates who come down to Vrindavan and come down to this planet, to the planetary zone. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once in the cycle of creation comes. That's even more rare. So these are different aspects of Krishna that come here. And those associates also are not considered to be falling down because they are coming here for a specific purpose. The qualification is they never lose sight of Krishna. They never lose sight of their association with him, their connection. So whatever role they are playing in this theatrical drama that Krishna wants to put up for the benefit of all the Nityabadh living entities, those people are still liberated. They are not to be considered as ordinary human beings, or ordinary people like the rest of us. Or we are a little bit better than ordinary, that's for sure, because we are looking at Krishna. So that is important to understand.
Anu has a question.
Yes.
Good morning, Master.
Hanji, good morning.
So a little bit on that fluctuation where we just discussed, I needed some more clarifications. So essentially, there are periods where you are very connected and the healing is happening and everything around you is peaceful. That is ideal situation, and I go through that for a extended period of time. And then there are periods where everything around you or people around you are going through stress. You are doing your healing, but that, as she was saying, the bliss connection kind of fluctuates. You are, as you said, keep connecting and keep doing it. You're doing it. But then there are periods where you really are looking for that breakthrough and you're yearning for it, but that doesn't come through. In such periods, how would you guide us to continue?
When you're getting disturbed by what is happening around you, you are lost your focus actually. So you need to refocus and understand that these are all things that are going to happen. There, you cannot do anything about it. We have an episode of one of our healers. His father has been very ill for quite some time. They had taken him to the hospital. He was in the ICU, and they were paying phenomenal amount of money, which he could ill afford. So we advised him that you take him home and you do home care and make sure that you have the provision. So now that gentleman is there for the last couple of weeks and he's still deteriorating. There's a lot of care being taken, and this healer is feeling very guilty that, is he doing enough, is he not doing enough, and what to do. And it's very difficult to see the father suffering. He's in almost a comatose condition, or very less responsive. He's only drinking water. So he's very concerned. What should I do? He's very panicky. Have I done something wrong, and do I need to do something more? So that is the kind of test that you have to understand. This is the situation. This is the reality. So he sent me an SMS saying that, it's very difficult to see father in this. I said, why is it difficult? You should help him transition to his next best position. Ask him to, send healing, and ask that he should be liberated from his suffering. But first, you send healing to yourself, that you're not feeling guilty and that you're not so attached to him that you're keeping him here. You need to refocus. What is really the important thing? Father is going to pass away. Mother is going to pass away. Everyone is going to pass away. I am going to pass away. There are going to be so many disturbances. I am going to get less income. I am going to get more income. As long as I have enough to live on, what am I worried about? Why should I endeavor excessively? Why should I be so over-concerned? Maybe it is my job to be professionally concerned. Fine. But there is a limit to what you can do given the environment. You cannot control the rain. You cannot control the storm. You have to wait it out and go through it. So just like in America, the whole southern part of continental North America was hit by these hurricanes, 3 of them. And they're like bomb blasts, And what can you do? You can have all the money, you can have everything material, but this shows you how nature is more powerful. So this is the 3 types of karma that we get from our own minds and bodies. We get karma from other people, and then we get karma from nature. So this is the nature of the universe. You cannot change that. However, you can understand this nature, that it is going to change, it's going to fluctuate, things are going to be deteriorating, things are going to be getting better. How does it matter to me? Because I am only a tourist. I do the best that I can and then I move on. I leave the place neatly, cleanly. I have to leave my room. You are moving out of a hotel room. You are taking all your things with you and not making a mess if you can help it. And then you move out, or you're changing your house. You are leaving your house. So usually when people leave their house, they leave it in a bad shape. But this is what is happening in the material world also. People are not bothered about what's happening. It's somebody else's problem 50 years down the line or 100 years down the line. I'm not going to be here. Well, you jolly well might have to come back, then you will be inheriting your own problems. So this is how the material nature is. Even if in family, somebody is there, not there, happening, not happening, as you progress and mature in your healing, you become very detached from these things. But it is not something you can do artificially. So how not to make it artificial is that you continue to work with this understanding. I do the best I possibly can without over endeavoring. I take whatever reasonable steps I can. Beyond that, what I can do. And then what is the definition of reasonable? Suppose this healer had a lot of money. His father would be sitting in the ICU for 3 months. In fact, sometimes the doctors will tell you, look at these people, this one's been here for 1 month, this one's here for 2 months, please take your father away. Because you will end up, paying 20,000 rupees a day in the ICU or whatever it is, and they're sitting here in lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and then at the end of it, then you're praying, this old man, he just ruined all my money, why didn't he go faster? I feel like strangling him. So, he should have died. I have come across healers who talk like that. I said, we have to do everything possible. I said, what is everything possible? Till your money runs out? What? What do you mean everything possible? Let the person go. So, you get disturbed by elements there because your focus is away from the understanding of what the universe is about, what you are here to do. You can only do so much. And if you are not comfortable, what will happen is at some point, you become uncomfortable following the company line, so to speak, if you're in a job or in work, which is, I think, part of the reference that you are talking about. And the company line may be very untruthful compared to what the reality is. So what do? Well, you have a choice. Am I comfortable enough financially to move out and just, work on my own? Which actually you are, because a lot of your foreseen expenses didn't happen in terms of education of your son. So all that is there, but it depends how comfortable you feel. You may feel, no, I need more, I keep needing more. But plans are there. What do you need more for? So ultimately, this will also create some disturbance. I know that this is wrong, but the company line is I have to promote this project. So then you are running into difficulties. So then those come up, so-called ethical questions. So that is something you have to deal with. So we have faced these situations in two major ways in our life, and both ways we decided to move out, no matter what the cost. So for everyone it is different. But understand this, that you cannot compromise with material considerations eventually beyond a point without compromising your spiritual progress. That is for sure. So at some point you have to draw a line, how much is something that I can take, and beyond that it's not tolerable. I have to change. I have to act for change. So that is an internal space decision. That will show how much progress you've made. Ultimately, all of this, you're not going to take your house with you. You're not going to take your son with you. You're not going to take your bank balance with you. Nothing is going with you. Only your karma. So what karma have you created? That is the important thing. Where is the next position I'm going to be in? So whenever you're in difficulty, you should ask yourself this: what is going to be the possible consequence of what I'm doing? Not in order to terrorize myself, but to understand, okay, right now I can't deal with this, I understand, but that is an excuse because I really don't understand. If I did understand, then I would take the action. So there are a lot of mental games that the mind plays. It's a ghost, it's a zombie. So these things are elemental, that don't really matter that much as wisdom, as understanding, as the power of action, as the power of understanding. The power of understanding is very high. It's a very powerful thing, because it is even superior to consciousness. Because when you see the truth as it is, that is great power. So you need to see the truth as it is and move on. It is not necessary to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not what life is at all.
So you're very brave,
I am very
I was
brave.
just thinking that when you were in the traditional, I don't know how to say it, is when you were in your first thing that I was reading about your association with, let's say, ISKCON and the chanting that you were doing. How do you think of that? It's such a traditional method of going about things. How did you think about Reiki at that time and say that there was something more to what I was?
There has to be something more than just that. There has to be something more.
Traditionally coming down from
Well,
the gurus down.
I didn't look for it in that sense. It was driven from my own inner experiences ever since I was a small child. I knew there's something a lot more. There are different universes because I had a very strong memory of how I descended into the material world. So that realization was there, and that understanding was there, and I could not understand what it meant. So it took me a long time, and then when I found the teachings of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, everything fell into place. I was looking at many things, and I found this also as part of my search.
But most of his teachings are all about the Mahamantra and how, that is his devotion.
Yes, but the
What do you think suddenly about...
Bhagavad Gita is talking about this only.
But that is the Brahminical connections energy that they're talking of, I think.
Yeah, they're talking about the Brahminical energy, they're talking about the super soul, they're talking about the Supreme Person.
How did you think of Reiki when you saw it?
I didn't come across Reiki. I came across Reiki after that. And then I heard a Reiki master speak about what Reiki was, and I said, this is exactly what we are learning in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, so I must explore this more. So it took me a little while to get there. And then I found it eventually, and this is the same Brahminical energy. My spiritual master said, you will go away from this path and find it again in a different way, and then you will help a lot of people. So it is his blessing.
And considering he was already in this line...
Yeah, he was, Gopal Maharaj.
Because when you keep reading what their instruction has always been to chant and do this devotional service.
Yeah, that is the way. Okay. So we are actually concluded here today then.
There's another question from me.
There's another question, yeah. Go ahead.
Will Lord Krishna appear in this lifetime? Will we recognize him?
Well, he has told you that you see me everywhere, then where he is not appearing, tell me. If you see him everywhere, you see him as the super soul, you see him in other people, you see him within. Seeing doesn't mean necessarily with your eyes. Seeing means with your awareness, with your understanding and your consciousness. Eyes are inferior to understanding. So what does seeing mean? Seeing means through your understanding. So you have to have the eyes of the scriptures, the Shastra Chakshus. So the eyes of the scripture, you see the divine. So that is the way to actually approach. Okay? So we will conclude here. We have completed text 17 and 18 of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the chapter on Purushottam Yoga, and we will conclude this chapter hopefully the next week when we meet again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 You've been listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a lecture series by Nalan Narula. Chapter 15, The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Explore our website, gettingpositivekarmanow.com, for more on how to change your karma and destiny.